I mean, some crazy happened that night, and we were just surrounded and swarmed.
Went to the parole office. I walk in and I see my dad. I'm like, oh, that's my dad. And I hadn't seen him since I was like 13. He didn't recognize me, bro.
People shooting guns over my head. I open the door, the bullet ricocheted off my window and go the opposite way.
I grew up in kind of like a mixed culture between growing up Muslim and very conservative, and then I didn't look like anybody else in my family line.
I would drink and use for most of my shift and then punch out at 7 a.m. and go continue the party somewhere else.
I never turned my back on that dude because when I was down, those guys said, I remember you.
And I knew from the Texas experience that this was going to be a problem.
The story that they used on the show was a real scenario from my life, and it blew me away.
On this episode of Patched, we're going to show you some of the best clips of Season 2.
I'm really excited to revisit some of the great conversations we had over this season.
So we're also going to show you some of the moments of the episode coming up with George Christie.
Here's a little preview, so I can't wait for you guys to check it out.
We got back to the Glendale clubhouse. Old man John's waiting for us in the front yard, man, and he is pissed. And I thought, oh man, we're in for it. He's mad at the Mongols. And I'm like, we started this fight. I mean, we literally started the fight.
Are you an active member? The kind that would be missed? Or are you just content that your name is on the list? Do you attend the meetings and mingle with the flock? Or do you just stay at home and criticize and knock? Do you take an active part to help the club along? Or are you satisfied to just belong? Do you push the cause along and make things really thick? Or leave the work to just a few and talk about the clique? Think this over, brother. You know right from wrong. Are you an active member? Or do you just belong?
Hey guys, I'd like to welcome and give special thanks to Fabric by Gerber Life for supporting the Patch Podcast. Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance, and you can get it done today.
Made for busy parents, all online, on your schedule, right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes with no health exam required.
Just go to meetfabric.com/patched. That's MEET fabric.com/patched. BetterHelp is not a crisis line. That's BetterHelp, HELP, help. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp Therapy Online. BetterHelp is the largest online therapy provider in the world. BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. So for 10% off your first month, go to betterhelp.com/patched. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/patched. Hey guys, thanks to the folks at Every Plate for supporting the Patch Podcast. You know you don't have to spend big bucks or tons of time in the kitchen to make delicious food at home. When you use Every Plate, you get delicious meals delivered to your home that are restaurant quality and easy to prepare. New customers can enjoy a special offer of only $1.99 a meal.
Go to everyplate.com/podcast and use the code PATCHED199 to get started. It's applied as a discount on the first box for a limited time only.
Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Patched. Here we are in Season 2. Jason and I kind of had these cool ideas about where the show was going to go, but what's been really neat is the more we talk to these guys, the more things have evolved, and so we really wanted to start pointing out some of the cool things that came out of Season 2, see what you guys think, and kind of discuss it more. So, Jason, between Season 1 and Season 2, what did you kind of think some of the differences were so far?
Well, I mean, one difference is we got to hang out with a lot of these guys on a personal level, like in person, just besides just being with them on a camera, right? So that really made it brought it home. Plus, I think it was good for all of us just to kind of get together and have that camaraderie again. A lot of great stories, a lot of good positive feedback from guys that were on the podcast, from people that reached out to them to say that they saw them, to say that that what they said on that podcast worked well for helping them through their own personal struggles. We get a lot of people that are like, I can't wait for the next episode. I really liked the episode with Tiny, or I liked it with Benny. So I just think we've just had a great amount of feedback, and it's really turning into a really positive group. So I'm looking forward to what we're going to do next.
Absolutely. I feel like we're kind of all becoming family after this, right? We've all gone through so much similar things and kind of working things out together, which hopefully helps everyone else. And it's been really cool. So we're really excited about having George Christie on the show. He's coming up at the end of Season 2, so it's upcoming. Make sure you guys check it out. But let's check it out now and see what you guys think.
When when the guys came in from back east, they wanted to become Hell's Angels, and the party got out of hand. Everybody started taking LSD, and the guys wound up losing their lives over it.
It was at George's ranch.
Yeah. The bodies wound up at George's ranch in Whispering Bill and Chester Green. Was a Richmond Hell's Angel. He became a Mongol. But I talk about it from time to time. Whispering Bill went to the witness protection program. Chester Green went down and hid in plain sight in Long Beach. He became a Mongol.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that story. I mean, you've been sharing it on social media lately, but before that, I was a Mongol for 15 years. I didn't know that story. And then the kind of crazy overlap is I know Frank Ball very well, and I didn't realize it was his family that was involved in some of that stuff too. So
yeah, that was Keith's wife. Frank's mother ran off with Bud. And when we went to the swap meet that night with no intent, it was just like, hey, man, we're going to go here and have a good time. Suddenly, Bud and Keith are face to face. Keith doesn't say a word, man. He just smacks Bud, and the was on. And
Jason, that's the big swap meet that kicked off pretty much the Mongol Angel beef, like the original one.
Yeah, and we got in a circle, and some crazy happened that night, and we were just surrounded and swarmed. And, what's really interesting, there was a guy, Cliff Mallory, there that was a Hell's Angel prospect that had a extended chrome kickstand, and he was clocking Mongols with it, and he was an informant. His handlers were there watching him, and they didn't know what to do. They think, should we intercede? Should we break this up?
Or should we let it keep going?
How do we put it in the report? This is, after things we learned about. But we were fighting it out, and, nobody ran. Everybody was fighting. The cop ran in. One cop ran in there with a six-shooter. To tell you how long ago it was. This kid, he looked like he just got out of the academy, and they sent him there to police the swap meet. And he came in there. He stopped his fighting. Cops started showing up. The Mongols took off. We took off. I'm running to get out, and I run into another Mongol. We start fighting. The Saint Slaves grab me, pull me out of there, and then we all go out to our bikes. And
were you a member at this time?
I was a member. Yeah.
Okay.
And Los Angeles Hells Angels. And we get back to the clubhouse. Now I don't know how this happened. We take off to Glendale, and we were hauling ass. It was probably 5 or 6 of us on bikes. We got back to the Glendale clubhouse. Old man John's waiting for us in the front yard, man, and he is pissed. And I thought, oh, man, we're in for it, And old man John was kind of like a legend. He always had a cigar in his mouth. And we used to hate to ride behind him because he'd smoke the cigar while he was riding.
You'd smell like it.
All the ashes in the eyes. Yeah. But he's mad at the Mongols. And I'm like, we started this fight, we literally started the fight.
So many great stories. So much history, right? From 1976 until, 2011. So you can just imagine all the stories that are running around through George's head. And it's just so cool to hear, like, the personal, on-the-scene description of these things that went on. That they're not in books, they're not in magazines. But this is all the information and the culture that we all fell in love with and wanted to be a part of. And then to hear it coming out of someone's mouth who was there standing amongst all these guys, it's just priceless, in my opinion. What do you think, Mooch?
Yeah, I think it's really cool. And I think my favorite part is, obviously growing up on the opposite side of that story is there's always two sides to every story, right? And as a Mongol, I grew up and I got to hear Mongol history, and hearing the opposite side, the Hells Angels version of those same stories, was really eye-opening for me. It was really cool to get both teams' perspectives of how it was going. It was really cool to, like you said, these are stories that, we know by word of mouth, but are not publicized or nothing big. And we got to be here at the ground floor hearing from somebody that actually lived it and was there. To me, those are really big, cool takeaways where we get to hear a version from a guy that was there. And these are things where, like, people always ask, like, what started the beef with the Mongols Angels? And here we have a guest on that can tell you how it started because he was there from the beginning. So hearing his version of it was really, really cool for me, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's just priceless, history that we're hearing.
Man, Jason, I'm excited about this next one. It's my friend Rocco, who, as a lot of you guys know, he played a character in the Mayans, so he played an outlaw 1%er motorcycle club member. But in reality, he's a military member. He spent a lot of his time in the military and in law enforcement as a Border Patrol agent. And what's really cool is the more we got to talk to him, the more we really saw the overlap of what brought him into playing a role as a biker, but how much of it resonates with us who really were bikers and in real life how that affected us. So I really like the stuff he talked to us about, and really seeing how members of the military really have a lot of the same feelings and a lot of the same stuff that we go through as bikers. Like, what did you take away from some of that stuff, Jason?
Well, one, I'm always fascinated by actors, right? So, like, especially like someone like Rocco, where you can actually like talk to him and he's like telling you like the process and how he gets into the character. To me, I just think like, how do these guys do that on camera, right? So I think that's definitely a skill, and it always intrigues me. But then to hear like his background with the military, his dad's a fireman, border patrol, like I just think that it's like so cool that he went through all these stages of helping these men and women, in the military, in the border patrol, and then he gets into acting, and then he gets into eventually playing a role that's like, portraying our lives, right? So I just think that there's something that resonates there with both of us, I'm sure, and I just thought he was just a really like humble man, and to hear him talking and to hear what his passion's about, it really hits home.
My favorite part is not only was he in the military and doing all those other cool things, but as an actor, even, he wanted more, and he went back to school and got his master's degree, and now is a clinical social worker and helps and gives back to the veteran community and everybody else, and has his own men's group. So something that really resonates with us and our audience when we talk about mental health. He was a really great guest, and I think you guys really like it. So check this clip out and see what you think.
That's exactly it, is that I've never had to play myself where I had to live my emotions on screen that were honest. I've been playing an actor. I've been kidding. I'm not really Gilly. All those things are fake, right? That's a character. But when you tell me to play a guy that's struggling with post-traumatic stress, struggling with assimilation, and then the story that they used on the show was a real scenario from my life. I've never heard anyone say it out loud until I was on that table during rehearsal, and it blew me away. It ended up putting me to a little bit of a depression, because I learned how as an actor to cultivate these emotions. I never learned how to shut them off. Right, I'm pretty new in the acting space, and so I allowed myself to get back into a dark place that I've been working very hard for many years to get the out of. And then this one line she says broke me to a point where we had to stop filming for about 30 minutes because I couldn't get a hold of my emotions. I was like, damn, I've never heard that from someone else's mouth told to me at that moment, and now the cameras are running and 40, 50 people are watching me as I react.
Yeah,
it was hard, man, and I never told that story to the public, but it put me in a depression that I had to get some counseling myself just to find a way to shut that off.
And if you don't mind us asking, what was that line that triggered that?
So she talked about a woman. She said, and how about that woman? She's communicating about a woman who was killed in combat, the collateral damage that happens in war. And there was a scenario in Iraq where a woman and some kids were being used by the terrorist organization. Essentially, these two individuals were using their vehicle to ram into one of our trucks and then shooting out the back window, and in the back seat was women and children. And a very common tactic that ISIS and the Al-Qaeda would use to kind of psychologically destroy us. And you don't see it often, but it happened in that day. And I caught a glimpse of the whole scenario, and for a long time I held that, not sure how to handle that. And Mooch, you understand this, but it's a moral injury, right? Like it's a conflict of my morals and values that I've ever expected to see in war. I signed the dotted line to fight the enemy, and in this moment I'm witnessing innocent people get killed, unfortunately, in the chaos of war. And for a long time that I couldn't get that out of my head. So hearing her say that was like, damn, I've never heard anyone say it back to me, and I've written it, right? I actually handed that to Elgin. So I was like, excuse me, cut, give me a second. And yeah, man, that one. And it ended up carrying on even longer because I had to kind of keep playing this hurt veteran that was struggling. And in real life, I fought so hard to get out of that mindset, and I was putting myself in it, and then I had to go home and see my kids. And the craziest part about it, man, is that I might be acting emotionally, but my body doesn't know what is right and wrong. My body is feeling it and going through it as an honest emotion. And so, boom, I'm in depression. I was in depression. And so me and my wife we had to work real hard in getting me out of that, because then I'm coming home and that spills onto my family, right? I feel like now I'm feeling unloved from everybody, and all the little counter reactions to that, trying to feel loved again, trying not to feel, and then being very hyper vigilant with things. And so, yeah, man, I didn't know what I was getting into. And, you know, I am honored to have played that character for the millions of veterans who watch the show and those who feel they don't have a voice. But I didn't know it would take the toll it did on me.
How it brought him back into that moment, you know, that he was reliving based on the words that were on, you know, on a script, just shows you, and it just helps with anyone that's in our audience to understand that, like, these are things you're always going to have in the back of your mind. They're always going to be there, right? So it's like, how do you deal with them when they come resurfacing back up? And so he explains in that clip, in the episode, how not only did he have to, you know, get back to reground himself to do the scene, but also to get out of a funk that it put him in for weeks afterwards, right? So these are like the skills that Mooch and I are like trying to tell everyone that's listening to our podcast, is that you're going to have a bad day, but it's like, how do you get yourself back to being in center, right? To understand that it's just a moment, that you can get through it, and that you need to get through it to get to the other side so you don't fall down that rabbit hole. So, like, I think that was like a really good moment in the episode, and it really resonated with a lot of our viewers.
Yeah, to me, it was the sincerity in that piece. You know, here's a guy that's, you know, comes from this alpha male lifestyle of special forces, military, border patrol, and he's vulnerable. He's telling you about his feelings and his emotions and how he felt on camera with people staring at him while he's processing grief and, you know, all these other things. And I think that's what resonates with us and our audience is, here we are coming from outlaw biker scene, supposed to be these tough guys, and here we are openly talking about emotions and feelings and how to help each other. So for me, this was a piece that I thought was very vulnerable but so sincere, and it was one of my favorite parts of the season.
Couldn't agree more, brother.
So this next clip, we got Tiny. Jason, why don't you let us know how we got Tiny on the show and what your guys' interactions were?
Tiny and I were in the club together. We met each other a few times. Again, larger in person than you can imagine, but a huge heart and a great guy. We just got done going on a ride, actually, and yeah, this clip's going to be great. Everyone's got to check it out.
You know, one of the things I really liked about this clip is I didn't know Tiny before this interview, and how much we had in common between martial arts and FXRs and, you know, his upbringing in general, wrestling and stuff. So it was really cool to get to know the guy that was on the other side, so to speak, and how much we had in common. And so I really, really liked this episode a lot, really resonated a lot with me. So hopefully you guys are like it too. So check this clip out.
So I got a contact. I went to a meeting and I received a local contact for an outlaw in my area to speak with whenever there was an issue. We weren't supposed to be buddies. We weren't supposed to be friends. We weren't supposed to hang out together. Only if there was an issue were we supposed to communicate. Well, there was a bar where outlaws had been going to that I didn't know of in South Carolina. They'd been going in and out, and they were headed there. And I already had 2 charters of Hells Angels prospects and supporters going there too. And I knew from the Texas experience that this was going to be a problem. So I tried to make phone calls, and I called the outlaw and I told him, I said, listen, man, you got a group of guys going. He said, man, yeah, they go there every Thursday night. They know the owner. They, you know, the people who are there know what they like to eat before they even set down the order. I was like, well, this is going to be a problem because we've got Hells Angels and Prospects and Support Club members already there that I can't get on the phone. Luckily, he called the outlaws, got them on the phone, and stopped them. They weren't happy about it, but they stopped. They didn't go to this bar. Since I couldn't get anybody on the phone, I personally drove 2 hours to go to this bar to see what I could do. I pull up, I look across the street, and there's already a couple of SUVs sitting over there, and I walk around, and I see the AR-15s laying against the back of the car. I said, this is about to be Texas. I walked back across the street, I went inside, I started rounding my guys up, saying, listen, y'all got to get out of here. Oh, well, I'm going to finish my beer first. I said, bro, I'm telling you, it's different in the Hells Angels than it is in any other club. It has to be a negotiation. It has to be, I'm presenting you with the evidence and I'm expecting you to make the right decision, but I'm letting you know you're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
So just to help out with what Tiny was trying to get at there, when he went back to the guys in the bar and said, like, hey, I think we should leave, and then he's saying, like, it's going to be a struggle to have this conversation, and that's because in the Hells Angels there is no true, like, there's not someone at the top making decisions, right? Every man makes his own mind up as to what to do. So yes, you're going to run into those brothers that are like, I'm not ready to leave the bar, I'll see you guys later. But when, you know, that situation arises, that Tiny witnessed, it's like you need to be the responsible party in the room and get your brothers out of there. So, yeah, and for what Tiny was talking about with Texas, and that had just happened, yes, we needed to get everyone to safety immediately.
To me, it speaks to like the militancy and the structure of club life. Like, you know, I grew up in street gangs and punk rock scene and street fighting and bar fighting. But when I joined a club, I actually had to start thinking not about myself, but about everybody else. And if I do this, how's it going to affect everyone? And in fact, it was one of those things where once I joined the club, I got in way less trouble and way less fights. And we tried to stop bar fights and stuff because whatever I did affected the brothers. So what I take away from this clip is how, as a unit, everyone has to work together in order to be successful, right? And to keep each other out of trouble. And the goal is to follow the leadership and the structure, and let's work on it later. Let's move on and deal with it another day. So I really like just kind of showing the militancy / like the brotherhood piece of all that.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, brother. Our next guest is Johnny Bomber. Great guy. Got a chance to hang out with him in person at a restaurant with Mooch, and we had just a great conversation. Lot of life interests in common, you know, similar upbringings, you know, guy was in the military, you know, did all the right things, and continues to try to help people in his everyday life. And I just really think that he's a good person.
You know, what I really liked about this episode is, you know, I was in the club with Bomber. I got to know him pretty well on a club level, but I didn't know his story as far as, you know, immigrating to the United States and, you know, his different culture and his background, ethnicity, what it was like for him to be a Muslim in the military. Some really, really cool stuff. So I really like to get the fact that I got to know the real Bomber in this episode. And I think a lot of you guys are really, really, really going to like it. So check it out.
Oh man, I grew up like polar opposite that I probably look right now. Definitely not gangster. Quintessential little white boy life. I had 2 immigrants for parents that moved here from a country called Yugoslavia back in the day. So I grew up in kind of like a mixed culture between growing up Muslim and very conservative, and then kind of, you know, assimilating to the American culture. Obviously, I fell in love with the American culture because I didn't look like anybody else in my family line. But nonetheless, you know, I did my thing in Irvine. I stayed out of trouble. I was just a normal kid, man. Very quiet, shy. I was a skateboarder. And then I fell in love with video games, and I started playing video games for quite some time. September 11th happened, and that was my end of Irvine.
What was it like kind of growing up with that Muslim heritage and background and, you know, getting into the military, getting tattoos and all these things that, you know, if we don't know much about it, you think that, you know, it's kind of against the way you were coming up?
It was. To be honest with you, it was a really weird internal struggle that I had to deal with for a long time because nobody ever understood, like, the pain that I caused my family by doing the things that I did. And at the same time, obviously, I got to kind of carve my own path in life. And I always knew I was that against the grain kind of guy. But it was tough. You know, it did play a role. I mean, I've probably put my mom in tears more times than any grown man ever should. And I'm a mama's boy. I love my mom to death. So now I feel guilty as hell about it. But it also kind of changed their perspectives too on things. You know, they don't look at tattooed people the same way that they were taught to as gangbangers or this, that, the other. It's changed a lot of people by me growing up the way that I did and then pushing against that grain. So it ended up panning out for the best, I think.
You're saying that your relationship with your parents now is pretty good, and you guys probably look back and laugh at a few things and, you know, just have a different perspective on things moving forward.
You know, I was fortunate. My relationship with my family has always been good. Me and my dad used to butt heads quite a bit when I was growing up, and I think that's pretty average for most boys growing up with a father, right? You're going to butt heads against the alpha in the house. But he's a very smart man, and I wish I'd taken his advice way sooner in life. And me and my mom, always close. I mean, she's been my number one. My sister is one of my best friends on the planet. I'm fortunate, man. I was very fortunate with a good family and a solid background.
Kind of just mentioned, like, talks about how he came from a very staunch immigrant family upbringing. So, like, you know, I mean, I can't relate to that. My parents weren't first, you know, generation immigrants, but you can just imagine how any of our parents felt about us joining a motorcycle club. I mean, you know, these are all people who lived through the 60s, 70s, and 80s and saw all this stuff on the news and knew the people that you didn't want to associate with. So you can only imagine the conversations that were being held at home without us there or Johnny there, you know, and it's like there's deep concern for like our safety, you know, and I'm guaranteed we had our parents up at night, you know, worried sick that we were on a run or that we were going to this or that there was an incident in the newspaper. And so when you think about all the stuff we put our families through, to selfishly be in our club culture. It's something to look back at and say, like, I don't ever really apologize for it, but to acknowledge it and say, I know it was tough for you, can mean the world to a parent or a loved one that was concerned about us during that time.
I think that's a really good point. It's something that I still kind of grapple with to this day is, I come from a very tight-knit Italian family where Sundays are family dinners and all the holidays were together. And we all work together. But this is a family of school teachers and sports coaches and, real straight-laced people. And here I am in the news, our last name getting blasted all over because of what I'm doing as a Mongol. And, you think it could go different ways. But what's so cool is my family supported me to the fullest. In fact, my mom, who's a special education teacher, wore a pantsuit and testified on my behalf in my trial about how she thought a certain way about the Mongols until she met them, and she was like, "These are my son's friends. Like, these are family to me too." And so, really seeing that shift about how supportive family could be, whether you're right and wrong, they care about what you care about. That weighed really heavy with me. So seeing that he had to go through similar stuff really resonated a lot with me. So I think you guys are really going to like this one.
It's important that you had that supportive system with your family, but you and I both know that there's lots of brothers out there that they don't even have a supportive, whether it's a spouse or their kids, become distant from them because they're in the club and they're spending so much time away. So yes, you were one of the fortunate few, I would say, that was in the culture that had that good positive surrounding, to be able to go and focus on what we needed to focus on with the club. So, and I'm not saying that that a lot of people didn't have a positive thing. I'm just saying over time and the amount of stuff that we had to do, it takes a toll on anybody.
For sure. And spouses too, right?
Yeah.
People forget that piece, like what we put our wives through. And like you said, the way you said it actually was perfect because you said unintentionally selfish.
Yeah.
Like we were doing what we thought we were supposed to do, but it put our families and our spouses in a different position where they had to be stressed and scared and at risk as well. And so really talking through that was really meaningful, and that's why it was such a good episode.
Yeah.
Riding can be unpredictable and dangerous, so guys, please be careful out there. There's a lot at stake.
That's the truth. You got to be prepared for the unexpected and make arrangements to protect your family.
A wife for me, wife and kids for you. There's just so much to consider, and it's often just put off. There's just so much you don't want to think about.
But you have to. We all work and play hard, and you just never know. What motivated me to check out Fabric by Gerber Life was just that. Why work hard and not protect the people that count on you?
Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance that you can get today. It's made for busy parents just like you, all online, on your schedule, right from your couch. You can be covered in under 10 minutes with no health exam required. Fabric has high-quality policies with flexibility to fit your family and your budget. Even $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day.
If you've got kids, and especially if you're healthy and young, the time to lock in rates is now. Even if you have life insurance through an employer, sometimes that's not enough protection. Plus, what happens if you take another job?
I think one of the best features is that there's no risk. You get a 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can cancel it at any time.
With thousands of 5-star reviews on Trustpilot with a rating of excellent, they also offer digital wills and tools to invest for your kids' future. It's all right there.
Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/patched. That's meetfabric.com/patched. meetfabric.com/patched. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. BetterHelp is not a crisis line. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, help. Hey guys, as a clinical therapist, I've come to know that the first step you can make in addressing any sort of mental difficulties is reaching out. And that's why I love having the opportunity to introduce BetterHelp, our newest sponsor for the Patch Podcast. Most people just don't know where to start, and BetterHelp makes it easy and welcoming. Sometimes it could be workplace stress, financial difficulties, challenges with your family, or maybe we're just dealing with loneliness. And many of us face these challenges every day and really don't know where to start. But with over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it really works. With an App Store rating of 4.9 out of 5 based on over 1.7 million reviews, the best part is too, it's convenient. You can join a session with a therapist at the click of a button, helping you fit therapy right into your busy life. Plus, you can switch therapists at any time. It's actually really a simple process. So as I can tell you guys, taking this first step is always the toughest. Reach out, write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/patched to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/patched.
Hey everyone, just want to take a moment to remind our audience how important it is to support those who support the Patch Podcast. So please give these sponsors a try and take advantage of the special offers.
Yeah, the wife and I got our order from Every Plate.
Great. What did you get?
I followed your lead and I tried the meatloaf with the bell peppers and the potatoes first. And you're right. It was delicious and super easy. Everything was included and the quality is great. We both really enjoyed it.
Awesome. We just tried the herb parmesan crusted chicken and garlic mashed potatoes. You're going to love it. Again, I did the cooking and it was just as easy as the first time. The instructions are really easy to follow.
Yeah, man, even I cooked ours and it was really simple. So if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, bro. Here's the offer for our audience. New customers can take advantage of a very special offer of only $1.99 a meal. Just go to everyplate.com/podcast and use the code PATCHED199 to get things rolling. It's applied as a discount on the first box and is for a limited time only. So what are you waiting for? This episode is Take None, a member of the Chosen Few. For those of you who don't know, one of the longest standing clubs in Los Angeles, multiracial, and just a lot of great history there.
You know, one of the things we've tried to do with Patch is bring you guys perspectives from members of various clubs and, you know, active and inactive members. And what we've kind of realized as we're doing this is that, you know, once you've left the club, you don't have to answer to them as much, and people could be a little more open and tell their story. And one of the barriers or challenges we have with having active members on is that they still have to answer their leadership, right? And if their national or their chapter P is cool, maybe their national P is not. And so it's kind of this delicate dance we have to do between following the rules of protocols, motorcycle clubs, but still getting down into the meat of it all, right? Like, hey, how can we resonate with each other? How we can talk about, you know, what's going on and how we work together on things. And so we kind of had a challenge with this one where we had a active member of a club on, and we talked very freely and openly. And, you know, we had to kind of change some things around. But overall, I think we got some really great content, and I think something you guys are really going to like. So check this clip out.
A1 out there in Southern California. That would have been, you know, the one prominent club out there when we started, when we would have been around in the 60s and 50s, right? There's pictures of my founder, Sonny Barger, all of them meetings in California and LA, you know, correlating and moving together. As time has come and that line has been formally drawn, that was not just a part of the world, but then a part of our culture too. 1% Outlaw Club, Black Outlaw Club, you know, whatever. Territorial based, but out there where we were back then, we didn't have issues with the white. I mean, like I said, there's pictures of us, Toby Jean from East Bay Dragons.
Oh yeah, East Bay Dragons.
With Sonny and a lot of those guys that sat down together in town halls with the city of Los Angeles on the same thing. I can't speak for every area because every area is, so I'll speak for my personal. One of the first rides that I did after I got patched in, solo rides out to Mother, I stopped at my San Bernardino chapter, and one of the bros was like, well, you ever been to A1's clubhouse over here, their Mother chapter? And I was, no. Let's go over there. It's president. So I went over there and I met Rick, met his son. They opened up, you rode from Texas, backed my plates up, you can have anything in the bar. This was like 8 o'clock at night. I don't think I left till like 6 o'clock in the morning.
So yeah, to respect the Chosen Few and the decisions that we had to make with that episode, and to respect Take None, and to respect any member that's still in a club or any member that's out of a club, of course, if there's an issue, we are going to address it. And here at the Patch Podcast, we respect everybody. So, like, we did the appropriate things that we needed to do to get the episode back up and running and make sure everyone was happy with it. And that's what our number one goal is that we're not trying to cause any problems or any issues with anybody. We're trying to make sure everyone enjoys this and they get something out of it. So, yeah, we'd spend a little extra time just making sure that everyone was on the same page. And at the end of the day, I think we got something good out of there.
Yeah, we try to bring to you guys the most genuine stories we can, and we want it to be authentic and personal. And so we didn't want to just take this story down altogether because we thought there was a lot of things that the audience is going to like, that you guys care about. And so we did go through and honor the respects and wishes of the club and take out the things that they weren't comfortable with. But we still brought the show back so that you guys could watch the show and really get to see what you thought, and hopefully take something out of it. Because our goal at the end of the day is to make sure our audience is seeing the conversations and the topics that we're bringing up. So I really hope you guys liked that one because there was a lot that went into it.
I hear you, brother. In this episode, we have Chappie, an active 1%er in the motorcycle culture. Great episode, lots of information. I was very impressed with how he spoke during this episode.
Yeah, this one was pretty personal to me because when I moved to St. Louis and didn't know a lot of people, Chappie was one of the first bikers I met out there, and so we kind of developed our own relationship together. And so, going from that and then seeing him evolve in the 1%er community and do his thing, and then, like you said, hearing how well spoken he was, it's a really good episode, and I really was appreciated and happy to have him on.
Man, my wife, she a ride or die. You know what I mean? Like, she done been through it all with me. Like, you want to get some juice, let's get juicy. So, I'm going to tell you why I married my wife. I left the weight room. I was on some Mooch stuff, trying to get my body right, training it, you know what I mean? Give me some jujitsu in. And I go to a gas station late at night. A guy sees me, a black guy, beard, facial tattoos. He gets nervous. Because I don't know what the situation is. Shoot at me while I'm pumping gas. Now I believe in God because something said open the door. I open the door, the bullet ricocheted off my window and go the opposite way. I go around a car. People shooting guns over my head. So it's gunfire left and right, left and right. I make one phone call. All my club brothers pull up and my wife pulled up too. So you see a pack of hyenas in the corner and you see a little bitty girl that's only 4'11" in the front with the heart of a lion.
You just messed with the wrong dude.
And at that moment, I knew I had a backpack. At that moment, I knew I had a woman with me. And I had to marry. I actually married my wife randomly during the pandemic at Gateway Harley Davidson, in fact. She been with me through the wars, through the hard times, the good times. She always rode on the back of my bike and never questioned. And when you come across something like that, that's once in a lifetime. So yeah, me and her, we patched for life.
All right, so I'd just like to start off by saying that this was the moment in the Patch podcast where we took it to the next level, right? I mean, we introduced AI, which is why you're getting these visual effects and these like storylines that you can follow along with these graphics. To me, I'm super impressed by this. I'm kind of like blown away to think that we've even gone from the fact of a concept of we're going to do a podcast and talk about guys' mental health leaving the motorcycle culture, and now here we are where we have like simulated characters on through AI, telling the story. So I'm like personally in awe of this episode, and the story is amazing in my opinion. I mean, you don't hear a lot of these stories where you have this support from, your future, your soon-to-be wife at an incident like this. If any one of us were in an incident like that, a lot of guys would have to make the decision that maybe this life isn't for us, right? So it tells a lot about the woman that Chappie chose to be his wife. So kudos to him. Mooch, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think every club is different in the roles that old ladies play in club life, right? And for the most part, it's pretty separate from the club. But what resonates across all clubs is they have to be supportive of what their old man's doing. They have to be supportive of the lifestyle and appreciate what you're doing and the time you're taking away from home and the dangers you're getting. So if they're down to support things like that, like she was in this clip, man, you got yourself a real one, and you're probably going to have a good time in club life moving forward.
Yeah, I agree, brother. On this episode, we have Joseph Lucero. In this clip, he's talking about reuniting with his dad, or not necessarily reuniting, but seeing him again after so many years, and the difficulties that they had from their upbringing, from drug abuse, from addiction, and, in and out of incarceration. And so this episode, just listening to this, you just kind of like feel for the situation and feel for Joseph and how all this had to affect him for so many years. And when you talk to him, and you hear the way he talks now, it's like he's so positive, and he's out there every day giving back to people, which is just so amazing. I mean, we follow him on Instagram, and it's like every single day he is positive, and he has a positive message to give forth, and he's doing it time and time again to thousands of people. And I just want to say, keep up the good work, brother, and we're proud of you.
Yeah, Joseph's a really good friend of mine, and just like Rocco, another member of the Mayans, he was on the TV show The Mayans, a really great actor. But I think what makes him successful as an actor is how much truth comes with his stories and how much life experience, live experience he's had. And honestly, this is one of the favorite episodes that we've done so far in Patched for me. It was one of the first ones that when we were done recording, I just felt really good about it because we talked about a lot of different things, and I think you guys are really, really going to like this episode. So check this clip out and make sure you watch the episode after.
We went to the parole office. I walk in and I see my dad. I'm like, oh, that's my dad. And I hadn't seen him since I was like 13. And I was like, what's up, Pop? That word Pop, I always called him Dad, right? I didn't realize that I was calling him Pop because I was calling my stepfather Pop. Like my heart had shifted who my dad was. But when I hadn't seen my dad, right? So he's sitting in the parole office and I sit down, what's up, Pop? And he was like, oh, what's up? he didn't recognize me, bro. And I didn't notice at first, but within like 20 seconds of sitting next to him in the parole office, my heart started to drop, dude. I was like, he really doesn't recognize me. Like, how could, like, it was the first time, like, I had realized, like, he really didn't know who I was. My parole officer came to the door and was like, Mr. Lucero. We both stood up. And I just kept walking to him. My parole officer was like, you know that, man? And I turned around, and I just remember being like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I walked through the door. But when I turned around and see my dad, realized who I was. But it was too late, bro. Like, the pride wouldn't let me stop. And you're talking about a man who never told me anything but he loved me. Like, he always showed that, bro. And that was, like, that broke my heart, bro. Like, that
had to have.
It broke my heart, dude. Like, and I never really talked about it. And I just pushed it down, dude. Like, I just pushed it down, bro. You know what I'm saying? And because I just figured he was, you know, strung out on the Gataga, and he was just doing his thing, but he always loved me. He would know who I am, right? But I got an older brother, rest in peace, and an older sister that he bailed on too, bro. So, you know, as I healed and healed most of those childhood traumas, I was able to understand and let blame lie where it should, you know what I'm saying, rather than owning it. But I owned it for a long time, brother.
Did you ever get to reconcile that, or?
Yeah, did you talk to him about that moment?
No, dude. So that was the last time I saw him alive.
You know, that's got to be tough. You know, I don't care, you know, what you've been through or how tough you are, you know, on the outside. To relive that, to talk about it during the podcast, that has to bring up a flood of emotions again, you know, and then to deal with that afterwards had to have been definitely something to tackle. So, yeah, a lot of respect for that episode.
Super heavy clip, but I think that's why you guys are like this episode. We really, really dug down deep and got to the heart of some mental health stuff, and I think you guys, it's something that's going to resonate with a lot of people, but it's away from some of the other stuff we did. It's not 100% biker related, but it's, at the end of the day, it's just grown man and I think you guys will really like it.
That's spot on, Mooch. On this next episode, we have Peewee, Hell's Angel, larger than life, and man, he is definitely larger than life when you meet him in person. Great episode. You guys are going to like this clip.
Yeah, one thing I really like about Peewee is, you know, I knew who he was over the years, but never knew him as a person. So really getting to know Peewee has been awesome. And also, you know, another members of the 1% community that grew up wrestling and kickboxing and fighting. So something that, you know, resonate with him right along with. We got along great right out the gate. So really fun episode. And, you know, you guys have probably seen a lot of his other interviews and stuff, but we took this one a little different direction and tried to pull out some stories you probably haven't heard before. So check it out.
I get out of college. I see all my old high school friends are all, you know, the hair combed back, the old sha-na-na, you know, we're all greasers, and you know, we're listening to old doo-wop music, cars, chicks, the whole thing. That's what I did, bro.
The cool stuff.
And we were sitting in a bar one night, all us greasers. We look up at the TV, and the guy goes, "How tough are you? Come on down to the Tough Man contest," you know?
I remember those, yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah, with the big boxing gloves, right? They had the big,
right,
the
16-ounce boxing gloves, yeah.
Yeah.
And all the guys go, "Hey, Chuck, go in there, man, go in it." And they said, first place is $1,000 cash. And I thought, man, I could use the money. I need it. So I went down and I signed up. And bro, I knocked everybody out in the first round except the third guy. I knocked him out in the second round. And then I knocked the guy down in the finals, this black guy. I hit him, he dropped down to one knee, and he got back up, and he hung in there, but I was pounding him. They wouldn't start. It was only 1 minute round, so it's 3 minutes total. And at the end of it, you know, they do, it's a split decision. I was killing through the whole thing, but, you know, they got to make it exciting. So
yeah,
I won the Tough Man contest in 1984, and then the guy that worked my corner was like a three-degree black belt, one of the baddest dudes I ever seen, man. He was about Mooch's size.
Big fella.
And his name was Paul Rentke. Yeah, he was bad. He was a bad dude, man. And he was so laid back and so cool. He says, "Why don't you come to my gym and learn how to kick? I'll show you how to kickbox, and you'll do good at it." I said, "Man, I'm too big to be a kickboxer, you know?" I was already, at that time, because I was doing the roids, I was lifting, I was getting huge, bro. I was benching like 480. And, you know, man, I was doing all this and the juice and the whole thing. I was like 420 pounds. And I said, man, I can't, I can't kick. He said, I'll teach you. And I'll be a son of a bitch. He taught me. And I was kicking so good that, when he put that glove up by his head, the side of his head, I could do a real kick and kick his, the side of his head. So I got pretty good at the kickboxing, I got good at it. And he started setting me up on matches. And, I thought it was cool winning $1,000 for a tough man. So I tell him, hey, this first fight, man, you give me $1,000? He goes, let's see what the crowd is, because he gets the big draw off the crowd. It was packed, bro, packed. I wasn't the main fight of the night. I was a semi-main one. Crowd went crazy. After my fight, bro, most of them got up and left. They didn't even stick around for the guy. He was a lightweight, like a weatherweight. Mm-hmm. And it just kept going like that and like that. Okay, got another fight for you. $2,000. All right, $3,000. $4,000,
Oh, that's amazing, brother.
How far did you go in kickboxing? Because you won some titles, right?
What I did is I won a USA title at the Bradley Center where the Bucks play, where the Milwaukee Bucks play. They didn't fill that place, but, it had a good-sized crowd. I've got all that stuff on video yet somewhere, but they gave me the big belt. It says USA champion. It was BKA, Battle Kick Association. Then they had the PKA. And then they had one other one, I can't remember. It was so long ago, bro.
I was with Peewee after we did this episode, and I forgot to ask him how much he really enjoyed having a full head of hair in this AI episode. So, I'm going to have to really reach out to him tomorrow and be like, hey, brother, did you even want to thank me for us giving you that good-looking character on the show? But, yeah, talking with Peewee, he's got some great stories. He's got a great history. He's got a great outlook on life. He's super positive, and he's there to help people. He's got a big heart.
Yeah, what I really loved about that episode is his positivity, his takeaway. He talked about his life in club life, and a lot of negative things had happened, but what he took away from it, he turned into positives and life lessons, and he's continued to move forward and still be that legend he's always been. So I think that's really cool. And that clip we just saw about the tough man competitions, I remember as a kid staying up late and watching those. So to think now I met someone that did it is really cool, because I used to emulate that as a child. So that was always really cool. So we were super stoked to have Peewee on here. He's became a great friend of ours. He's a great friend of Patched, and you guys will like the episode.
Patched merchandise is available at automotoentertainment.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Mooch. A lot of you have been asking where to get an autographed copy of my book, and the only place you're going to be able to get it is here at the automotoentertainment.com website. The link's down below. We'll have paperback and hardback, so click the link, check it out, and get your signed copy today.
That's great, Mooch. A lot of people have been asking me about that. It's a great read, and you guys got to check it out. This next clip is of Chris Howe. He is a great guy, super positive. Mooch and I got a chance to hang out with him. Mooch has hung out with him many times. His story and my story, not that I ever got into drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, but being in the fire service and just hearing the way that he would go to work and how this was affecting him through work for about a decade, to me is just mind-boggling how he made it through this and is on the other side, and how he has become this beam of light through the fire department in Canada, and how he's helped so many people. The guy opened up a recovery center. He's doing so many positive things. He is a role model example of someone that we've had on the podcast giving back to the community.
Yeah, Chris and I became good friends over the years, growing up in the punk rock and skinhead scene, getting into the biker scene. But really, it all came from his work that he's done in the drug and alcohol counseling community. Chris has an incredible story. He was at the ultimate of lows at some point in his life and has turned it around to be very successful and has just used that to help other people. So Chris's meaning in life is to help others and to help others, get clean and sober and however that looks for them. And so he's been a really, really strong person in this community. So we were super happy to have him on Patch and join our family here.
what I found was that the progression of my addiction really, really ramped up in my late teens, early 20s. And, you know, something, I guess my first introduction to recovery was when I was 22 years old, and I was working in a factory. And I was on steady night shift, so I didn't have management around. I would go in, set up my machine, and then drink and use for most of my shift, and then punch out at 7 a.m. and go continue the party somewhere else. And every day there was a guy on day shift, also a big tattooed, bearded dude, rode a big Harley. I thought he was super cool, but like I never talked to him, you know. It was just kind of like, he was kind of the guy at work, but he'd always look at me with this sort of disapproving look every time he came in for day shift. And one day he said to me, like he came up to me, and what was really interesting was when he opened his mouth, his voice and his demeanor did not match his look. And that was very apparent to me, and I was very intrigued by that. And he said to me, like, kid, I've been watching you, and you're going down a real path. If you ever get sick and tired of being sick and tired, give me a call. He handed me a piece of paper with his name and his number, and I didn't know what he could do for me. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't have a clue who he was. I don't know, you know, like I just, for some reason I kept that number. And then a few months down the road, I found myself really desperate. You know, drug dealers weren't answering my calls because I was into everybody for so much money. I didn't have a lot of friends around me. The only friends I had around me were other addicts that wanted things from me, and I wanted things from them. We were just a bunch of people using each other. It was very selfish, self-centered way to live. And, you know, we were doing whatever we could to get the money to access more and more of whatever the substance we were after that day. And I found myself in this like desperate place where I had no money, I had no friends, and I had no connections anymore. And I called the guy and I said, hey, his name was Terry. I said, Terry, you said you could help me if I feel sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I think I'm there. You know, I was beat up, I was battered, and like just done at that point. I was cooked. Like I didn't have anything left in me. And he came and picked me up, and he told me his story, and he said, like, you know, his story was he was a part of a motorcycle club when he was younger. He got clean when he was like 20 years old, clean and sober. He had been sober at that time for like 21 years or something. And he told me how he got there and what he does, what his life is like today. And he's like, do you feel like that is something you could use in your life? And I said, I didn't even know people lived like that anymore. I was so surrounded by chaos and addiction, and just a lot of loss around me, a lot of death around me, a lot of really sad situations and you know, sad state to live in. And so he brought me to my first meeting, and I started going, but unfortunately that didn't take.
Okay, so there's something that we overlooked when we were talking in this episode that I know we didn't touch on, but it's the fact that Terry, the guy who's in the video, the big, larger-than-life biker, how he took the time, how he had the confidence and didn't give a what anyone thought to walk up to a stranger and say, I can see you need help. And I would say that without a doubt, that's the thing about the biker culture that I love, is that the guys within the culture, the guys that are in these clubs, have the confidence to walk up to a stranger, not only to introduce themselves because they don't care what the outcome's going to be, but if they see something wrong, they are going to get involved in it. And not necessarily to say to make it worse, but I'm saying to try to help out. And this happens, there's stories like this all across this country and all across the world of guys with patches on helping people that they see are in need. And this is something I know we didn't talk about in this episode because we were of course, we're focused on Chris. But as far as Patched, the podcast, is concerned, this is exactly why we're doing this, because anyone that's going through a struggle, you need to know that you're part of something that has the ability to reach out to people and help people because you have the confidence to do so. So don't ever let that go. Don't ever give that up.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my piece short. My biggest takeaway from this was if you ever get tired of being sick and tired, that's it for me. That one really resonated and hit home. You know, if you ever get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you know, if someone hadn't said something to Chris, who knows where he'd be. But you know, nonetheless, it was a biker. But the fact that someone in general stepped up and put a hand out when a brother was in need, and now that's what Chris is doing to everyone across the country, all because someone did it to him first. So, you know, mad respect for that, mad respect to Chris, and another great episode.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that we got to rewatch that.
That was a great episode.
On this clip, we have Diamond Daryl. Now, a special thing about Diamond Daryl is he's someone that was in a motorcycle clubs in Australia. And that's a whole nother world, and there's a whole nother dynamic with living in Australia and being in a biker club. So this was a very special episode just to get a glimpse into that window that people like Mooch and I know about because we hear about all this stuff on the news or through the wire that we're all involved in. But for people that are just in North America, just kind of hanging out, you have no idea what it's like to even say, I want to get into a club or continue to be in a club, because it is so hard to be a member in that country.
Yeah, I've known of Diamond Daryl's story for a long time. You know, he was a very well-known, well-respected member of a 1%er club in Australia over the years, and then had to battle and challenge all sorts of different physical health issues, medical issues, all sorts of ups and downs and things that I think would have crushed most people. But Diamond Daryl always fought back, pushed through, and here he is. Now he helps others. He's got his own clothing brand. He does TV shows and movies. He's a producer. He's a music producer. He's produces movies and shorts. Award-winning producer at that. So, you know, the guy's doing really positive and cool stuff. So I was really, really happy to have him join us and share his story with you all.
It just evolved over the years, and like I said, my mate got me into club life, and then nothing really changed. I never ever considered myself as a bikie or a 1%er. I just did the same things, and the things that got me into it was the riding in packs, going from pub to pub, to clubhouse, to different clubs, partying. We used to party on the Gold Coast with about 4 or 5 different clubs, and all ride and have races at midnight to the next clubhouse, from Narang down to Burleigh, like just full-on races, and everything was just a good lifestyle to be in. Like, it was full ball all the time. So yeah.
And everyone got along, and you guys had a good time. I mean, that just, I can only imagine like the feeling of everyone being there and everyone doing that. Like, I just know how it was just being with like a couple different charters, you know, but to have different clubs and you guys are all like, hey, we're all going to go have a drink and we're all going to race between bars. I mean, that sounds like a mecca to me.
It was such good times. I had good relationships with, you know, on the Gold Coast. It was very small back in them days, and everyone used to party and get along.
You know, if we could have, you know, here in North America where all the clubs got together and rode up and down the California coast from one place to another, I mean, that would be, to me, that would be like a monumental evening.
I did it for a while with Mongols and Outlaws, packing them together, doing pack rides, and there was a time like I was at a bar with a bunch of Mongols. I went over to the Sons of Silence clubhouse, partied with them and Chappie and his club, then rode over to the Outlaws clubhouse, partied with them, and rode home. And I just remember thinking, like, dude, this is sick. Like, if we could do this frequently and often, how cool. Like, you just check into other clubhouses, ride around, and kick it. Like, it was rad.
You don't need to spend long, but just get to know people and just get to see some of the cool things that they have on their walls is just the same as we have on our walls. It's like just getting that whole, like, you know, seeing the other side of the coin with the different groups. I just think that's so magical.
Yeah, it was one of my big takeaways from, you know, club life in general out of all the years I spent in it was the short time where there was with 3 or 4 active 1%er clubs that all got along with each other, and we just got to ride around and party and hang out like we were one big club. It was amazing.
In this clip, we have George Christie again. This leads into a very important 2-part episode that we've been working on. This is going to be this is our first time doing a 2-part episode, and we just really hope you enjoy it.
Listen, I'm sure you guys all know who George Christie is. He's been on a lot of podcasts. He's had a book out. But we really took a different angle on this one, and we tried to pull and pry and get some different versions, different stories, and really drill down like the mental health piece and the leaving club life and what it was like after. So the version you're getting from this is going to be a lot different than you've seen before. So we're really excited to share it with you guys.
The phenomena of drive-by shooting starts. So this is serendipitous. This isn't planned out. So we call all the street factions to a meeting at Ventura, and we say, man, you guys can't start shooting at each other in Ventura. This is our town. You guys are just renting it, you know, but this is our town. And I go, 2 or 3 years from now, you guys will all be married and working the 9-to-5 job, and I go, we'll still be doing this.
Yeah.
So I go, you're going to behave yourselves. Well, out of that meeting, 1 or 2 guys from every one of those street factions start showing up at the clubhouse with a bike. And next thing you know, you've got all these guys from Midtown, Pierpont, Avenue Gangsters, and whatnot.
All the youngsters.
They're all coming around the club.
So there's something magical about, and I don't want to sound too, like captivated by someone who's like George Christie, but like, I'm just going to say it. Like, there's something, his charisma drew people to him. You know what I mean? And that's just a gift that he has. When I'm listening to the stories he tells, the way he talks, his mannerisms, all that stuff, it just draws you in. So like, you can only imagine at the time when he's telling these guys from these different street factions, like, hey, we're always going to be here, the way he says it and the way that he gives off that vibe, of course, eventually they were going to say, well, what are we doing wasting our time with this? Let's go to where the big dogs are at. So I just think that this clip just shows kind of like that magical time that when George was a president in Ventura, through the 80s and 90s, and how it kind of transpired through that period, especially in Ventura and that beach town. I mean, it's on the map as far as Hell's Angels are concerned. So I just think it's a great clip, and it's going to be a great 2-part episode.
Yeah, even being on the other side of the fence, everyone's always credited George for really bringing in that new generation of Hells Angels, the young kids, the surfers, or the skateboarders, and the kind of that anti-biker antithesis of what was happening before then, right? And he really kind of changed the game. And so I think no matter what side you were on, you always had respect. Everyone had respect for George Christie, and we really show that in this episode. Like I said, we really try to pull pieces out that you haven't seen on other episodes or other interviews, and really get to show that side of George that some of you guys haven't seen before.
Yeah, I'm always excited to hear George's stories. So, it's going to be a great episode.
Yeah, and the final clip we have to show you is my close friend, Benny. Benny was an ex-member of the Outlaws. We had a really, really good talk with Benny. And you know what really I thought was cool and made this episode special is Benny really dug deep and came out of his heart and shared with us some really deep stuff when it comes to mental health and really everything this show stands for, talking about brotherhood and mental health and utilizing each other to move forward. And he really shared some deep stuff. And so I think you guys are really going to like this clip and resonate with this clip because when we saw it, it kind of blew us all away.
And just to give you guys heads up that that's the genuine Benny. Hanging out with him after we did this episode, he is genuinely someone who is thinking about how you feel. He's got a big heart, is all I want to say. And it really just resonates when you're hanging out with a man.
Absolutely.
I never turned my back on that dude because when I was down, those guys said, I remember you. You're good to me.
They made the time.
Mm-hmm. That's it, man.
They made the time.
And I'll say this too, man. My granddaughters, Zuri and Aslan, and Janora Taylor. I love you, and I'm here whenever you need. And I don't like to get emotional, but I don't have the opportunity to say anything to them. So if by chance one of my cousins shows this to them and they see it, I just want you to know. No matter where you go in this world, no matter where you are, no matter when you need me, you know where I'm at. You have my phone. You just call me. And with everything that I am, and I'm sorry for those things that I've done. Yeah. So that's what means something to me, man. It's my family, my God, my family. And, it's rough sometimes. So, and I'll leave it with this, man. I'll say this, and I hope people understand where I'm coming from and that I'm coming from a man that's imperfect, and I try to do the best that I can. But the Bible says that if we confess our sins, that he's faithful and just to forgive our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. And that's the path that I'm on. And I know people are going to look at me, man, I know you did, Benny, you did this and you did that. That's right, bro. Anything that I've done, I can confess it and I can move on. So that's just where I'm at.
Well, we know when someone brings up reaching out to children or, anything that has to do with children, in my opinion, it's very strong, right? And he's pleading to try to reconnect with them. And Benny is someone that would ride through hell to get to them if they were in need. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, knowing Benny the way I do, the fact that he had this message to spread, man, that one got me, But what I like, my takeaway with it is something we've been doing with Patch for a long time, is showing the feelings behind the man and showing that, you can still be masculine and have feelings and share them with others. And There's so many people in this world that wear a mask or play a role, and that's not Benny. Benny is himself, true to the core, loyal as it comes, but is happy to share his truths. And, see him vulnerable like that in front of everyone else, man, really meant the world to me. And it makes me really look up to the guy. The guy's a hero, solid-ass dude, and it's a great episode.
So, after all of this and season 2 coming to an end, we'd just like to thank everyone for their support. We'd love to thank our sponsors. We'd love to thank everyone who's been buying t-shirts, books, hats. This is taking this to the next level for season 3, which is going to continue the growth of this show, which is going to continue the growth of our audience. The responses that we're getting from people are touching. It's humbling that I've received some of these responses from people. It also justifies what we're doing here and the time we're spending. So all I can say is it's a huge, heartfelt thank you to our audience, and we appreciate all the support you're giving us.
Yeah, there's a great look back at season 2, but don't forget, season 2 is not over yet, including a 2-part episode with George Christie. It's going to be a big one. But thank you guys so much, man. As we move forward, these keep getting better, more genuine, more caring, and the support we get from you guys, the support we get from our sponsors, that's what keeps us going. So thank you guys so much. Continue to keep tuning in. Make sure you go to the Automoto Entertainment website. Check out autographed books, merchandise, t-shirts, anything you can to support the Patch Podcast, because we support you guys and appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
This portion of the podcast is brought to you by First Bank.
Thanks, First Bank.
Thank you for watching Patch Podcast. Remember to go to automoto.ent on Instagram, automotoentertainment.com, or Jason_Logan81.
And OG__Mooch on Instagram.
We'll see you on the next episode of Patch. Patch merchandise is available at automotoentertainment.com. The Patch Podcast series is brought to you by Oak and Iron, Craft Cocktail Bar in Thousand Oaks, California. By Outdoor Creations, serving the Southern California and Nashville areas.